We're going to get started now. I just want to thank everybody's time, everybody for their time, and for watching us talk about what we've been going through. So without further ado, okay, so we're going to get you a lot of information here. There's going to be quite a bit of data that you may want to really take notes and get ready. So we'll give you another 30 seconds, but if you don't mind, go grab a coffee, grab a pen, grab a piece of paper. We want it to be as educational, as helpful, so that you could take some stuff out of this webinar and go implement it. The idea is to make you as efficient as possible. We're here as your partner, and we've added today to our webinar, obviously, Sherry Mooney, and we'll get into detail introducing her properly in a second. So I hope you're ready, and if you are, feel free. Well, sorry about that. If you are ready, feel free to get that pen, get that paper, and let's get it done. So it's where IT meets HR. So everybody's talking about working remotely. Everybody's talking about a hybrid workplace. Let me explain what that is. The idea is that when you're working from the house, or you're working from the office, or you're working from anywhere, that you're working the same exact way and as secure as possible. That gives us quite a bit of things to think about. One, from besides IT and security, but from an HR perspective, policies, procedures, what they have to worry about, what can they do, and Sherry will get to the HR piece. But from our perspective, what are they using? Are they using their own machine? Are they using something that you provided? What kind of security you have in place? What kind of compliance are you under? So where it meets HR, or where IT meets HR, this is where we stand today. The idea is, for most companies, is to make their environment flexible, so that if we do get hit with, heaven forbid, a second wave of coronavirus, that we are able to, we have a plan of attack, we've documented it, we know what everybody's going to do and how they're going to do it, and we're able to leave the office and work that way at any time. But not only that, some people now are thinking, why do I need to come to the office at all? I'm productive at home. I'm able to perform. Companies are going to start to have to make those decisions. Are you going to allow some of your people to work remotely, or are you going to force them to all come back? And if you're going to allow them to work remotely, let's think about a couple of things here. One, from a security perspective. Two, how are you going to manage them? Three, what KPIs, what key indicators need to be put in place, and how are you going to find out if they're hitting the mark? And what happens if they have an issue at home? Who do they call? How do you escalate? Lots to talk about, and we're going to get into that in more and more detail to show you what you need to do. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name, we have a lot of people that are not clients on today. Welcome, everybody. We're up to 28, so I'm glad that you joined us. My name is Ikram Masabini. I'm the president and owner of MVP Network, or of MVP Network Consulting, sorry. I've been running MVP with my team since 2002. We're an IT company, and we are focused on making sure that you're secure and your systems are available. And that's our main focus, is to make sure that you're capable of working from anywhere at any time. Think of us of anything to do with technology, you come to us, from phones to copiers to printers to IT to cloud to anything technology related, we're here for you. And I'll also introduce Sherry Mooney. Sherry Mooney is an attorney, also is the president of Mind Squad HR. I've worked with Sherry now for the last few years, and we're very excited to have her on the phone with us. Hi, Sherry.
Hi there, Ikram.
How are you? Thanks for joining us. And most of your data is always very helpful and allows people to really take some of the information that we're giving them and implement them right away, giving them a step above, a step ahead of everybody else, so that they can understand what a hybrid workplace is all about. So having said that, I'm going to give you control now, Sherry, and have you get started.
Great. That's rare that I get control. Thank you, Ikram. I really want to thank the team at MVP. You know, I'm the president of Mind Squad Consulting. We're an HR consulting company. We're like a CAO for hire, whereas Ikram's sort of your CIO for hire. And we tend to collaborate with a lot of best-in-class businesses like Ekrams that serve a whole variety of clients in different industries and different sizes. Because you know, my team and Ekram's team, we certainly bring that experience to bear. So it makes things move a little quicker. We're happy to sort of collaborate on something where HR meets IT, because we both have a lot of clients that have a lot of questions. They've got pain points, they've got concerns. Not only how are they going to get their clients, how are they going to get their clients served by getting their employees back to work, but what's that back to work going to look like? And what's emerging is really not the two traditional forms of co-location in remote workplace, but really the hybrid workplace. So we're going to talk about that with you, and then Ikram and I will lead you through some of the topics from sort of a people standpoint and then a tech standpoint, and how two teams of HR and IT can collaborate to get the better solutions for your workplace. So to that end, hopefully I can run this, Ikram, because it's not looking like I've got the permissions, but that's probably my lack of tech. There we go. Co-located teams. That might look like a familiar office to fans of The Office for you. But so traditionally we have co-located teams, and traditionally there's one headquarters and then maybe multiple offices, but that's called a co-location. And people in your workforce, employees, they interact with each other either face-to-face or on the phone or video conferencing. And by far, that's the most you know, traditional and most used form of workplace. The second is remote. And of course, you know, there's obviously been a lot of talk about remote. Those are where employees are working outside of a traditional office environment. You can have a single location or multiple location format. So if you have employees working remotely from one single location, so say they're working from home, that's called location dependent. But there's also remote teams that will work from multiple locations, and those are called location independence, right? More along the lines of the term remote nomads, where they're not necessarily in the same location. And so when you're setting up policies, procedures, and tech, you need to really consider, you know, which remote locations are they going to be working from before you start to make your decisions on what policies and procedures you're going to have. Now, these people would be interacting with others through email, video conferencing, and messaging apps. Now, what's emerging and what's becoming much more popular is the hybrid team, and that's what we're here to talk to you about today. So that's where a portion of your work team is usually located in one office, maybe more than 50%, and then another portion of your work team is operating remote. And possibly these people are also now coming back and forth for different reasons, right? So I may be working out of my home office most days, but then when I want to come in and meet with Ikram, I'm going to come in and meet with him, and then maybe I'll have 3 of my direct reports meet with me after that. I would actually be in a hybrid situation. And so hybrid teams combine communication all the same ways of both, right? So you've got face-to-face, you've got phone, you've got video conferencing, and you've got messaging apps. So when you're setting up HR policies, when you're setting up IT infrastructure, you really need to think about, you know, how your teams are going to work, where are they going to work from, and what they're going to use. And we're going to talk about what they're going to use here today. So what are, oh geez, sorry about that. What are the benefits for a hybrid team? So first of all, flexibility for employees and employers. Make no mistake, flexibility, whether it's in benefits or work arrangements, is one of the #1 benefits that workers of the past were looking for, and they're 100% looking for it from this time forward. They've got a chance to go home and work from home or other locations, and they're understanding that that can be very valuable for them in getting other things done and making their lives a little easier. Most people would say the #1 reason for the flexibility and being able to work home is because they want to avoid their commute, and the rest is there's another high percentage that are interested in having that flexibility so that they can work in different personal obligations that they couldn't work in with standard sick time or other employee leaves. Okay, another hybrid team benefit certainly is locating hard to find talent. I mean, I've worked with a lot of rural teams and or places that can't really attract talent in that they need, and that could be from a gig worker to a really high placed position. And by having a hybrid team setup, you're able to get that talent that you might not otherwise have gotten to come to wherever your workplace is. And finally, reducing costly overhead. Certainly, overhead's expensive, especially if you want to locate in certain areas. I think about it from my old world. I was in a New York top 100 law firm. We were located downtown. We talked all the time about whether or not we should move to the suburbs, but the courts were downtown. Had we employed a hybrid team, we potentially could have had more people remote and then had a smaller office downtown and made that work so we had proximity to the courts. But suffice to say, hybrid team has a lot of benefits for employees, and many of those are cost effective, and they're things that your employees are certainly looking for. Now, what is the future for remote work? And are remote work options here to stay? One of the things that I should talk to everyone about is there are some conflicting statistics. And what's interesting is when there's many, many studies done of employers and what they're looking at for remote and hybrid options, they have low percentages of employees that they foresee in these types of arrangements. But when there are studies done, same type of industries, that don't require the people to be face-to-face. Obviously, retail might be a little different, or manufacturing. What's happening is the employees are really pushing on remote options and saying, no, this is where we want to be. We want to have at least a percentage of remote for us, so we have that flexibility. And so we have now this sort of dichotomy where we're really trying to work through what employees want and what employers want. But suffice to say, employees and talent are always going to be the ones who are going to push this, and remote options are definitely going to be here to stay. They were here to stay before COVID, and now they're 100% here to stay after, well, or during. So remote options are here. Employees want them. They're pressing on them, and we're definitely seeing it even in the startup of hiring people back. All of the data that's coming into us, albeit it's early on, people want these remote options. So we're here to get you ready. So what are the trends? 76% of employees are more willing to stay if an employer offers flexible hours. So it's not just about attraction of talent, it's also about retention of the talent that you have. And that's an even more important statistic, because getting people indoors is one thing, but keeping your skilled workforce is much differently and much more beneficial to you as an employer. 25% lower turnover for companies offering remote work. It's here to stay. People want to stay for that. The only percentage that I've seen that's higher for turnover is really high medical benefit packages. That tends to also drive those numbers up for lower turnover. But this would be number two. 86% of your employees feel that working remotely reduces stress. Now that's going to be reduced also based on generation, and we're seeing more stress in millennials that are working remotely right now, but still overall that number's still that high. Finally, employees working remotely at least once a month are 24% more likely to be happy and productive. What's interesting about that data is that that's actually global data. So, and it's very consistent with the US. And that means that we're looking at workers all around the world, because frankly, our workforce is moving more global, and we do need to pay attention to that data. Oh, can you put that back, Ikram, or because it's not working here? Oh, there we go, thanks. Oh,
I got it.
By the way, everybody should know it is not the tech guy doing it, it's the HR person. Thanks for backing me up. So prior to the pandemic, 7 million people in the US worked from home at least half the time. So it's about 3.4% of our total workplace, right? But 68% of the global workforce work from home at least once a month, okay, compared to 54% of the US. So we were lagging a bit with respect to working from home at least once a month. Finally, 34% of the US workforce is strictly in office. Now let's take a look at those statistics now. Now, in May, as I told you, 64% of the US salaried workforce had now been working remotely. That statistic was actually 3% in January of 2020. Same industry, same people being interviewed. 53% of the US businesses plan to have people back to work by July 15th. My understanding is that's staying pretty much the same. That plan is still in place. And 45% of US workplaces actually don't even have a return to work date. It's sometime in the fall, or we need to know what happens with the schools. Everything can be dependent on other larger infrastructure decisions that are happening either in their state or nationwide. 68% of businesses are adopting broader and more flexible work from home policies for all workers. I'm certainly working on that with my clients, and I think that that's prevalent with other consultants I've been talking to and other HR leaders. And finally, 29% of businesses are going to allow full-time work through the rest of 2020. So is hybrid and remote, are they here to stay? Well, definitely through the end of 2020, because that's almost 1/3 of our workforce and a dramatic step up from January of 2020, which was 5%. So we're going to talk about mastering the hybrid work arrangement and look at IT security through ECRM's experience, and then employee productivity improvements from an HR and IT standpoint. And one of the best things is that ECRM's not just an IT geek, as he calls himself, self-professed, but he also runs a company with a significant amount of employees that did have to make this move to all remote. So I think he can also add to that his experience, and I can certainly add that from my client's experience. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Ikram.
Thank you, Sherry. Well done. So we'll talk about IT and what you have to think about. So something as important as this is when COVID hit, companies had a decision to make. What are we going to do now? We have to go home. Now, most people worked remotely. Let me specify this a little bit. Work remotely meaning the owner, the CEO, the president, maybe the CFO, a couple of salespeople were able to log in remotely and work. For the entire company to work remotely, that was a whole different ball game. That's people weren't ready for that. People weren't ready for the secretary to stay home, but also get all the calls to a system that is built at her house so she can transfer those calls and be seamless to anybody that is calling your company. It was no longer C-level anymore, right? It was no longer just the people that needed to work remote that had to come in. It's a new normal at the end of the day. The need to work remotely expanded. The need for technology and for networks to be flexible got risen. And most importantly, the need for security became really high because companies had a couple of decisions to make. The first one was, what are we going to do? In other words, are we going to just give people new laptops? New desktops? Are we going to allow them to take their machines from home, or are we going to allow them to use their machine at home? And if we're going to do that, how are they going to connect back to the office? Are they connect via VPN, virtual private network? Is your company in the cloud already and everything is already hosted there, including their desktop? So then you were prepared, or were you? Because the cloud is just not enough. There's so much different technologies that needs to get together to give you that environment. The idea here and what we're talking about is a flexible network. Is to be able to grab that laptop when you are told you cannot work at the office anymore, you have to go home, and you can go home or go anywhere that you want to go, plug in, and you're working just as effectively that you are at home, that you are at the office, that you are at Starbucks or wherever you may want to go. And you're just as secure. And yes, I said Starbucks and just as secure in the same sentence. That's the idea here. The idea is to build your infrastructure around flexibility, around security, and around allowing every single employees to be able to work, whether they want to work 2 days from home and come back, work 3 days at the office, whatever you decide, you want that flexibility. Let's not forget that we actually live in Buffalo. And in Buffalo, there's a lot of inclement weather that comes in. And we as a company were built our network to be flexible so that everybody can do their work from home, including our secretary. So day one, actually a week before everybody started going home, we decided to send everybody home, and we were ready and prepared to help our partners, our clients, and to make sure they are ready as well. But that gave us a lot of cybersecurity risks that we thought of some and discovered some, and Now we're in a position, that's why we're here talking about all of them and what it will take to make you um, not the low-hanging fruit, to make you secure, to make you allow you to work from anywhere at any time. But there are decisions that needed to be made and dollars that need to be spent that the company had to make on their behalf. And how flexible do you want to be? Are you under compliance? Are you in healthcare? Are you in financial? Or are you, a retail store that doesn't really need a lot of compliance and doesn't really have a lot of infrastructure, but you still have to be there physically? Or are you a law firm or whatever it may be that can work from home, but it's not under regulations, whatever it may be? You decide what your level of risk is, and we'll help you get there. But having said that, hackers are taking advantage of that. There's been a huge uptick in spam related to COVID-19. I actually received an email that told me, do you want to know if you have COVID-19? Click on this link. Like, no longer have to wait seconds and you'll know if you're sick or not. And it asked me some stupid questions. I tried it, but I try it from a machine that is, I call it the hacked machine. It's the machine that's outside my network, outside my infrastructure. I have it set up to be able to test some certain things in it to make sure that I'm secure, and to test to let my clients and our clients know that they watch out for this type of hacks. But there's been mixed in with all those company emails about responses to COVID-19. And the thing here is that people are starving for information. That's why we've been doing a webinar every other week. We want to give you right and correct information, fair information, not based on fear, based on reality, based on facts, and let you know that, well, hackers are coming after you, and they are hoping that you're afraid, and they're hoping that you want more information about COVID or what's happening. I've seen email where it said, phase 2 gets released today. Well, it didn't. That was way back in the day, but it gets people to say, no way, really? And you click on the link. So remote working and relying on email, but not email alone. They could be on a website or on a link or other things that may happen. You may be forwarded by somebody you know. We have to add additional protocols in place for sensitive communication. We're no longer in the same network. Everybody's now working out of their house. In other words, everybody's house is their own network. And how are we going to tie these together and give you the security that you need? That was what we had to worry about. But I can tell you, don't be scared. We got there, and we got there before we needed to get there. But it was important for us to say that there was a lot to consider and a lot to talk about. So the first thing we wanted to consider is, let's do a cyber hygiene. Let's basically scan your machine that you're going to take at your house, or scan that house network and make sure that you don't have any more issues. Because remember, if you're working from home and you have a kid, and even though your work may have given you a laptop to use and you are stringent and you told your kid you cannot use it, but your kid or your husband or wife or whatever it may be can also have their own laptop that's connected to the same router and using your internet to go out. If they have a virus, that can affect your machine and vice versa. There is so first of all, let's audit everybody's environment, especially if they're planning on having a long-term work from home policy, a hybrid work environment policy, because work from home and hybrid work is a little different. Work from home is, I'm going to go home and log in remotely and be able to work that way. But a hybrid is, I can work from home or the office the same exact way, versus working from home where I come in and have a different mechanism to reach my network, which what most people have done up to this point. We are here to let you know there's ways to do it where you work the same way wherever you may be, and make your network flexible and capable, so that you decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to allow people to work from home, move forward. And all I want to see is results. And now you're starting to look at different information that you didn't look before, how you can manage through numbers, how you can manage through performance. And now we give you a risk score. So what's the risk score for that machine or that network to come in? And let's alleviate all these issues, reduce the risk, and get them to be able to work remotely and have a hybrid work environment that will work for you and them. And Sherry said it. Higher end techs for us, higher end resources for you want that flexibility, especially all the millennials. They want to be able to work from home, work from wherever they may be, they don't want to be under the pressure of always having to come in, and you may force them to come back because they have to. But if they're there in position and you have that flexibility, it will allow you to get better talent. So just be aware of that, and let's make sure that whatever we're going to tie back into your network that's going to be permanent is going to be secure as secure can get. So cyber
Ikram,
hygiene is something very important to do. So think,
Ikram,
yes,
I
Sherry.
have a lot of clients who actually got most of their remote people deployed early, very quick, you know, heading to Best Buy, grabbing stuff, doing it. Are you able to then do cyber hygiene with everyone and do these scans now that everything's already deployed?
Absolutely, that's
So
exactly what
that,
I'm saying.
all right. So they don't have to bring them in or anything. You could actually do it remotely.
We could do it remotely, absolutely. And we'll scan that machine and let you know what issues you may have. But then we'll look at how you log in remotely. So how are you working remotely? How is the hybrid workplace set up? Is it through a secured VPN where you come into your house now and then you have to VPN into an environment? So it's not exactly flexible. In other words, you don't work exactly the same way, but once you connect to that VPN, everything works the way it's supposed to. The VPN is like a long cable that goes from your house back to wherever your servers may live. And you have vigilant IT monitoring and support. If there is an issue, who you're going to call? Do you have the right security loaded on those machines that are at the office or remote? We call advanced threat protection. This is just more than just antivirus, anti-spyware, but this is anti-ransomware. This is intelligent remediation, looking at issues happening on your machine before it happens. What kind of tools are you using? Who's your IT security professional, making sure that you are secured at home just as much as you're secured in the office. And mobile device management is another big thing, especially if you use your iPad, your iPhone, or your mobile or any mobile device, Android device, and you have your email coming to it. Now you have Microsoft 365 on it, and now you're sharing files through that. Now you have files and communication onto those devices. Well, those devices need to be encrypted, need to be managed, because if you lose it, you don't want to lose anybody's PHI, anybody's protective health information, or any information that you may have. Clients are entrusting us as business owners to secure the information they give us, whether you're a doctor's office or an attorney or whatever you may be. We're giving you information, our address, our phone number, our name, and everything that we give you. We expect you to do whatever you can to make it as secure as possible. I'm sure you feel the same way, and that's why we're telling that to everybody. Build a hybrid workplace, build your network, and make it as secured and flexible as you can make it. And now that you're remote, secure communication is a big piece here. How are you going to communicate with your employees? Is it via phone? Are you going to call them on their cell phone? Are you then going to pay their cell phone? Or are you going to provide them with a voice over IP solution? And then that way, everybody can work the same way. So when the call comes in, it rings your receptionist house, if you will, phone, and she's able to transfer it just like she would if she came back into the office. Are you going to do video conferencing? How are you going to share files? And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But because we're talking about security, two things I'm going to mention. Number one, make sure that your password is more than 16 characters long. I don't care if you have exclamation point or capitals or any different characters. Just make sure it's longer than 16 characters. It takes a lot longer for a computer to hack a password that way than what if it's shorter. And add multi-factor authentication to how you work. So I have multi-factor authentication. It pops up on my phone. It pops up on my watch. I have to take a number and put it in to be able to log in, obviously through my bank or when I log into my office. We have multi-factor authentication set up on different, not only just to log into the network, but also on different applications. We added two-factor authentication to it. For heaven's sakes, Facebook is pushing two-factor authentication because that stops hackers in their track. If you don't have them set up, please feel free to call us and we'll make sure that we show you how MFA, as they call it, or 2FA, two-factor authentication would work for you. And then consider completely moving to a cloud environment. So it depends on what you are and what you do, and if we can move your environment to the cloud or not. Most of the environments are movable. And consider SaaS applications. I'm not saying go change your applications now, but see if they have a roadmap to make it a SaaS application. software as a service. That's what SaaS stands for. In other words, you'll be able to reach it through a browser. You don't need a VPN. You don't need to log in remotely. You could reach it through any device at any time. And that's the idea of a flexible network, is to be able to reach it at any time, anywhere, and being able to reach it the same way. And obviously, we talked about network security audits, but I can't say that enough. Audit, audit, audit. Make sure you know what you have. Make sure what your risks are. Get somebody that knows what to look for so that we could tell you your level. Basic security is one thing, and it could be good enough, but is it? Then we tier up, and then we'll show you the different tiers and what it could do, being adding a SIM for log monitoring or an ATP for advanced threat protection, or some of the things that we discussed today. You could do one, you could do all, and we can discuss what works for you, what doesn't. But the idea here is to do an audit to know what your risk tolerance is and where we can need, where we should take you. So who here, I hope you guys heard about the SHIELD Act. So New York Stop Hacks and Improve Electronic Data Security, SHIELD. Stop Hacks and Improve Electronic Data Security. So that was passed in July 2019. Obviously, nobody could expect that in July of 2020, even March of 2020, we would not be able to do what we're able to do and work regularly like we've been doing all our lives. Now we have to start thinking outside the box. So New York State requires businesses to implement reasonable safeguard to protect the private information of New York residents. Now that's the SHIELD Act. But I just said that earlier, the idea is you got to do what you can to not be the low-hanging fruit, to be harder to breach, to be aware of what can be breached or not, to train your people on what to look for, to expand. So this expands New York breach notification requirements for businesses, and then New York SHIELD introduces specific mandates for securing sensitive information. And it varies. If you're in healthcare, obviously you have to adhere to HIPAA, among others, high trust. If you accept credit cards, you're in financial, then you have to adhere to PCI, among others. But that's what we're talking about here. You don't have to be in healthcare to meet and exceed HIPAA's recommendations. You don't want to be caught with your door wide open. That will give you such bad press with your partners, your clients. You want to make sure that your clients know that you're going above and beyond. You're doing your best possible work for them, for what you do. But not only that, the data that they give you, you've secured it as much as you could possibly secure it. And that's the whole idea here, is to work together. Sherry, what do you think about that?
Yeah, same thing. So, obviously there's some cybersecurity training pieces that need to go through people, and letting people know about your data breach plans, working on some of the other operational plans in the case of, an emergency or a hack or whatever. That's all been sort of forefront with SHIELD. What's happening, Ikram, is I'm seeing a lot of businesses say, well, hey, we've got COVID, we've got a little bit of lax regulatory environment. They're not thinking that things will be enforced through the SHIELD Act. But my understanding is the New York State Attorney General is still pushing forward with the enforcement, because this was on the back burner for a long time. This law's been out. It hasn't really been enforced. So I would encourage any of my clients and anyone listening to get these plans ready for SHIELD, because the hackers are coming after you, and you need these data breach security plans in place.
Thank you, Sherry. I agree. The hackers are coming after you, and we don't want the state to come after you as well. And at the end of the day,
double hit, right?
Yeah, it's a double hit. So at the end of the day, and if the hacker comes and they're able to get through, the state is going to pay attention, and then they're going to want to come as well and do an audit. And we go through audit regularly, and it's nothing fun, if you will. I prefer a lobotomy. But that's what we wanted to say here. Be aware and be flexible for your employees, but not only for your employees, but for your clients and yourself. But now that everybody's have that wonderful hybrid workplace set up, how are you going to talk to each other? How are you going to communicate? How are you going to make sure that you're working properly, you're working correctly and securely? So what other tools should you be looking for? And, we're going to go here, and I'm going to give this back to Sherry first before I start talking about IT tools, because there are some other tools, agreement tools, policies and procedure tools. We'll call those tools, but they're important to have in place before you start truly telling everybody, you know, I know you've been working remotely and I want you to come back, but we're going to offer this hybrid workplace and everything is as is and our policies and procedures hasn't changed. That's not the case. You got to make sure that your HR is catching up with your IT, if you will. So Sherry, you want to talk about remote work agreements?
Yeah, you know, Ikram, just like anything, when you have a transition in your workplace, especially a geographical one, whether you were making a move from one office to another, you're sending someone globally, you know, whatever it is you're doing, you need to have a plan. We worked on a lot of remote work agreements, and I think that worked out really well for communicating expectations with employees in the workforce. I'd say that the things that people came to me that didn't have the agreements in between, we had a lot of people under a lot of stress, and they were sending out things that they might not want being sent out to either the entire team, or they're sending things out to clients that they didn't want out there. There was a little bit of, you know, some social media things about fatigue and the rest of it. So when you have people going remote and you're not there to walk by their office and say, hey, listen, what's going on, or do a temperature check, it is good to ensure that your remote work agreement maybe does talk about policies with respect to communication with each other, no matter how the communication is going to happen. But you certainly want to address whatever form you're using, maybe in your remote work agreement or in some type of remote communication policy.
Thank you. Very good information. I will add to then some other tools. So now that you're going to work from home and you're going to work remotely, now usually you dial somebody's extension to call them. How is that going to work? So one, evaluate your phone system. Is it hybrid, if you will? Is it able to work the same way everywhere? Are you going to give them an actual physical phone, or will the soft phone work enough for everybody? And that's what we recommend. Then consider a chat communication program. We recommend you have Zoom. We recommend Teams. And the reason why we like Teams better, and by the way, Zoom is a much better video conferencing system. However, Zoom does not incorporate into Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or what have you, like Teams does. Teams has so much more depth into working together and collaborating. We highly recommend using tools like that. It's about being able to share data and work like you did at the office, but we're going to raise it up. With Microsoft 365, we can now work on the same document at the same time. So I can actually open a document, see where your cursor is, see where my cursor is, and we can collaborate and then chat at the same time while we're working, whether I'm speaking to you and chatting, or I'm typing and chatting and giving you ideas and you're giving me ideas. It's about making the tools better so that a hybrid workplace environment works better for everybody. And that way you're able to tell who's working, who's not, because that comes with a lot of different management issues on how to be able to collaboratively work together, but manage the people that you're not looking at, and make sure they are performing at the level you need them to perform. So we talked about Teams, and this is Teams. This is a small picture of it anyways, but Teams is included within Office 365. It's a collaboration tool for chatting, for video conferencing, for document sharing and meetings. It is actually the tool we use quite a bit. We use this for sharing of documents. In other words, Teams is actually incorporated within SharePoint, and that's how I'm able to share documents for people internally and people externally of my organization. All of a sudden, I got this strong tool that I can meet with people and see them face to face by going to my calendar and adding it, because it's part of Microsoft 365. So Outlook is part of it, and sending invites is the same way. You're working together in a much better environment that is Teams driven. And obviously Teams, like anything in Office 365, or now called Microsoft 365, comes with mobile and desktop apps for iOS, the iPhone, Android, Windows, Mac, and that's how it works. But having said that, Microsoft Team with document collaboration is such a strong piece. The idea is to be able to embed a document within Teams and share that document with other people that you're working with, allowing them to all come in at the same time to that document, make changes. And with Teams and the Microsoft 365 platform, now if you want to do a hybrid work environment, that's one tool we highly recommend to getting, is that you don't even have to click save anymore. If you change a couple of little characters, it saves in real time and you don't have to worry about it. Forget ever losing a file ever again. And that's the idea behind tools that will allow you to have a hybrid work environment and be successful at it. Hopefully have a smaller office, but have more people, have better people because you're flexible. And that's the idea here, to have your tools match what your needs are going to be in a hybrid workplace. I just wanted to put this picture in because Teams meeting, looking at them this way, being able to see everybody's face and change the background to whatever picture you want it to be. I usually go with a nice Star Wars background that is available, or I go to Star Trek. I am your traditional nerd, so don't judge. But that's what it's all about. So improving employee productivity in a hybrid workplace. How can we make them better at what they do, and how can we get them? Because one thing you miss when you have a hybrid work environment is the daily chats when you're walking down the corridor. When you're walking down and you sit by the cooler, the water cooler talk, if you will, or you go get a cup of coffee and somebody is there and you have a quick conversation about something, that's kind of gone in a hybrid work environment. Well, it's not gone when they come back to the office, but if it's a hybrid work environment, not everybody is at the office at the same time. That's why I have touch points and have application like Teams or Zoom or whatever, any touch point that you may do, and then have a regularly scheduled meeting and everybody understanding what you're expecting from them, and they have an agreement that Sherry developed for you that they can understand now and sign. That's what's going to make you more successful and allow your company to be hybrid, flexible, and your network to be able to support all of that. So let's talk about this together here, Sherry. Improving productivity of your hybrid work team. How are we going to do that besides better teams, right? We said leverage digital collaboration, different application, different tools.
Right. I would say from one of the things I would be thinking about too is you've got conference rooms. Your conference rooms are usually set to meet face to face. Do you set up a conference room? Relatively simply. You get the monitor, you get everything there, and then now maybe you and I are meeting, and then we want to meet with Jamie from MVP. We're gonna, be able to hook up with that through that monitor. We're able to see her, then we can then move from meeting with her to meeting with Beth from Mind Squad, and we're going to do that. And so we can be setting up a series of meetings face to face and then be interfacing with people from that conference room. So thinking about that and being a little bit more deliberate with how people are going to meet and how they're going to use the workspace, I think is another piece besides the platform, is actually the hardware.
Agreed. So when you go to your house, what does your setup look like? Are you working on your kitchen table with a little laptop and that's all you got? Because then you can't be as productive as you are in the office, that when you have dual monitors and the right equipment. If you're going to be a true hybrid worker, companies have to decide, are they going to buy that hybrid worker two desktops? And if they're not going to do that, how are they going to build the network to allow them what we call BYOD, bring your own device to work, if you will, but we need to secure that device and allow you secure connectivity back to your environment. So things to consider. And then set expectations.
Right.
What do you expect your employees to do? You expect them to work. Let them know how you're going to track them. Let them know what you're going to look for, and let them know what you expect from them at the end of that workday. And we talked about it already, over communicate, but have that open dialogue. It's going to open up a lot of different channels for you. And
I think cascading down expectations as well. I mean, how are we going to set expectations as an entire, you need to get your executive team together, or whatever team it is, at the higher level, to say, how are we setting expectations as a company? And then, having that go down department wise or however you're structured. And then maybe in those spaces, they're going to be starting to make a decision on how they're going to be setting individual expectations for their workforce. So it's not something where somebody's really out on their own. It needs to be a little bit more of an organized effort.
Agreed. Well said.
And then I see you've got managed time without 9 to 5 there. I know you and I have talked about this a lot. I think allowing people to work flexibly is great. I mean, there's huge amounts of numbers of people surveyed who'd love to be able to work after they put their kids to bed, put 2 or 3 hours in. You just have to make sure with the Fair Labor Standards Act that we're paying people when they're working, if they're hourly employees, if they're salary employees. We need to figure that out, and we need to work around it as HR and IT. You need to make sure that they have a way to work around the clock, right? Ikram, and I need to make sure that it's legally available. And
Correct.
it's an option for them to do.
So if you don't have a professional like Sherry that is in HR or a professional like us in IT, please call us. But somebody like Sherry that's in HR will be able to guide you from a legal perspective to make sure that you're not at risk. And we'll make sure that we secure your data to make sure that you're working productively and still not at risk and not getting your clients' data and putting them at risk as well. Okay, so having said all that, now that you have people working remotely and working from home, online learning becomes a big piece of this because we implemented something called an LMS, a learning management system, that we have trainings in it and what have you. But we highly push for every one of our clients an internal employee training system. Let's find out if your employees are susceptible to hacks, because 95% of all hacks, all of them, 95%, it's a big number, happens because somebody clicked on something they're not supposed to. It happened because you are scared and your employees are even more scared and they're clicking around and not really paying attention to what's happening. And not only because they're scared, but they don't know any better because nobody taught them what to look for. And that's what we provide for our clients as a training module, training system, an online learning and training for that is critical for hybrid workplaces. So cybersecurity training. We will send phishing emails out to see if somebody is will be clicking on a phishing email if they didn't get it from you. These are emails that we manage, that we sent out, that maybe look like a UPS email or an Amazon email, and let's see who we could fool to get them to click on something. Invest to train and update your workforce, and that's what we're trying to talk about here. What we want to do is give every workforce a grade, every employee a grade, a security grade. What is their risk score for them working for you? Do they click willy-nilly on everything and you're in healthcare or you're in financial and will cause you quite a bit of headaches? Or did you train them enough and show them what to look for? What is a good link versus a bad link? What's a good email versus a bad one? How are you going to know the differences? Well, there's tells and everything and every screen that we see. And if you know where the tells are, you reduce that risk quite a bit. Used to increase communication skills and collaboration and enable employees to flexibly schedule learning opportunities for career development, because you're not going to tell them, I'm going to give you a training, you have to sit down and do this. This is an online system that we're recommending. So we're recommending if you could do it at your own pace, you could do it 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, you could finish it all at the same time. It depends on how you learn. We want to make sure that at least you know the information. So having said that, I want to just play a quick video for you guys so that you could see it and understand what this is all about. So this is the system I'm talking about. You see what it looks like. This is the actual screen and it's the actual links, but it's a employee vulnerability assessment. Now, not network vulnerability assessment. This is employee, actual physical human beings, their assessment and what that looks like. It talked about dark web scanning here. Dark web scanning is important because let's say, Target got hacked and you're a Target customer who isn't, but one day you signed up at Target, you put your username, your password, or you put in a email address. And if Target got hacked, all that is now accessible through the dark web. So we scan the dark web for your domain and your email to see if you're at risk. And if you are, we clean those up before they become a bigger issue. So that system is a system that's a web page, a portal that you log into. Every employee logs into it, and they actually get to take a test. First a course, then a quiz, and then there's micro courses. Every micro courses are less than 2 minutes long, and you have 4 questions after that. The more you take, the higher your score gets. And that's the idea here, to build that knowledge to make sure that you're not vulnerable. Because 95%, I said it before, 95% happens because somebody clicked on something. Let's make sure whatever they click on, they know what to click on and what not to.
In your
Yes.
clients that are employing this, how are their employees, what's their reception to this being implemented? I know we have a couple clients that are mutual clients, but I actually haven't asked them how this has been playing out in the workplace. I guess good, because they haven't called me, but how are the employees taking it?
They like it because it becomes part of a kind of a competitive nature of everybody. And when your score increases and other scores are low, they like it. It gives them that competitive piece. But I also like it because they now are aware of what's happening and what they should or should not click on. They're aware of how the hacks are coming, and they not only makes them better for you as for the company, but it makes them better personally at home. So then they tell their spouses, they tell their kids, be aware of this. They become an educated consumer, and that's what it's all about. Somebody said in the questions came in and said, completely agree, open communication with clear expectations is key. And that's true. Let them know what to expect, let them know what they need to do, have that communication, and then have some KPIs and things to look at so that you know how to manage them, and give them the training so that if you ever get hacked, at least it didn't happen because they clicked on something.
Right.
Sorry, I'll go to the next screen here. We don't want to watch the video again, even though it's
we don't, but
I was getting ready to dance. So handling employee concern in the hybrid work. But what happens now that they're home but they have an issue? What do? Sherry, what do you think?
have them call in. Yeah, so one of the things is, ECRM, number one, at the beginning, it really was very tech-based. People were like, I can't get this done, I'm frustrated, my network doesn't work, what's going on? As we plan this out, we have to start thinking about what kind of infrastructure requirements are we going to have for talent coming in? What are we going to provide? What are we not going to provide? And having those conversations for when people go remote. But I would say, having some good IT support helped some of my clients, because their people were really upset. These employees were like, I can't work, and they want to work. My presumption is, out of the box, people want to actually get the work done. You got to give them the tools to do it.
Correct. Exactly. That's exactly right. And not only from an IT perspective, definitely from a communication and HR perspective, so that they know what to watch out for, what they should be aware of, what your expectation is, so that way they can help. You can help them meet those expectations. We're coming to the end here, so we wanted to offer something to everybody where Sherry and I would meet with everybody and give you a 30-minute. Sherry will give you a 30-minute HR consultation. We're going to give you a free cybersecurity training So that training that we just talked about, for the first 5 companies that request it, we'll give it to you for free. Now, if you're a client, unless you're on the gold level, you probably don't have it. You have the little reduced one. But it doesn't matter if you're a client or not. We'll give it for all your employees, 5 companies, that training for free. And then we'll spend some time with you discussing how to make your network more flexible. And then Sherry will spend some time with you discussing your policies and procedures and what you need to have ready to make sure that you are ready to handle and build your environment and make your network and your company into a hybrid workplace, not just a company where people have to go there to work. Be more flexible, use the technology. And for you to get any of those, now this is first come, first serve here. So please email jstewart@mvpworks.com. Again, that's jstewart@mvpworks.com. She will email this recording to everybody, and Jamie will follow up with everybody that showed up. But in this case, email her, because the first 5 people are the only people that are going to get the training. And Sherry as well. Sherry's time is very valuable. The fact that we had her here for a whole hour, you're laughing now, but you know you are. And you know
Yeah.
how good you
I got
are.
a couple calls. That's okay. Yeah, people can reach me through Jamie as well. We want to do a 30-minute HR consultation on hybrid for people, just to get it squared up and have them think about what where they're going. This is the time to give back, and we've been doing a lot and working with area clients and just and maybe new clients, potential clients, never a client, but really, keeping business going in New York is important. So same thing for us.
Yes. Thank you, Sherry. So
Thank you,
having said
Ethan.
that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. T-minus exactly 3 o'clock. So thanks for the 30-some people that joined us. Thank you for your time, and I hope you found this very beneficial. I did when I first saw Sherry's info, and I wanted to add a little bit to it, and we finally got it together. But this is key.
Yeah.
It's key. It's key. HR inside and out sourced, if you will. And for us, it's technology that needs to be available, needs to be working, and needs to be secure. And right now we're adding needs to be hybrid. So that way you are flexible and you could handle whatever life throws our way. Hope you guys stay safe, you stay happy, and stay earning. So let's get back to work and let's do this right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. I just saw your note. Thank you. I'm glad you joined. And for everybody that's sending questions in. Oh, these are not questions, just good job, and couldn't agree more. I appreciate James. Thank you for sending this in right now. And people are signing out. So we're going to sign out as well. Thanks for your time, everybody, and have a great day.